Sorry, I had to sneeze.
No, that's fine. Gesundheit.
You are listening to Trophy Horse with your hosts, Tricky Mick, Alex, I Yield to No One,
Steve,
and Sid.
Hello everyone, and welcome to Trophy Horses. This is episode 418, and I'm your host this week, Alex, and alongside me is my partner in banditry. Don't even know if that's a word, but I yield to no one.
You know, this is the real 418, not the fake 418 that Tricky had last week. That was actually 417.
Yeah, it took him long enough to get the show out.
It did.
People are joking that Trophy Horse is no longer the flagship show of the network. They're saying that Game Stuff is, or even
Spoilers.
the Loot Bros, which
Or the Loot Brothers, yeah.
yeah, they're not even part of the PG network, as Tricky likes to point out.
Nope.
But as we know that Tricky's been wrong about a lot of things recently.
Yeah, a lot of things, you know.
No matter how much he likes to dig his heels in
The Last Guardian.
and not admit that he's right or that he's wrong.
You know, 4 million copies.
So I mean, it's okay. So if you didn't see on Facebook, Tricky and I were once again arguing about this. It was something that was what was it 415 or was 416 yield?
It was somewhere in that range, 415, 416.
And I'm assuming, you know, when Tricky brought up, like he put a little poll on Facebook, which I'll point out as of, you know, last check, I was winning, by the way.
Yeah, and I voted for you, by the way.
Well, thank you. Homer did also. But, so I guess you guys talked a little bit about this last week. I was on vacation last week. I was in Disney, so I was not able to join you all last week. But, you know, the fact that I went to Galaxy's Edge and rode Rise of the Resistance and went to August Cantina and, you know, watched the kids build droids, like, I think that warrants missing an episode. I think I've earned that.
Yeah, you're good.
Yeah. One of those times where you shell out a shit ton of money, but you're like, man, I'm glad I did that.
Yeah.
But, so Tricky, you know, he made a comment, and he and I got into it a few episodes ago about the fact that he felt The Last Guardian was a disappointment as far as sales go because it didn't sell 5 to 10 million copies. You know, 5 of course being the floor and 10 million being the ceiling, I guess, or the sky. And, you know, I believe that was just ludicrous, and he's still hanging on to this idea. Yield, did you all discuss this a little more on last week's show?
He may have tried to curb it that way, but we didn't go in depth.
So I mean, like, I'll make the point that, you know, I looked up this, and, you know, the most popular game that Team Eco has ever made, I think it's fair to say, is Shadow of the Colossus. I looked up for the sales for Shadow of the Colossus, and across 3 releases, that includes the PS4 version, which Tricky calls a remaster. Again, Tricky was rebuilt from the ground up, so know your shit if you're going to try to talk. The PS3 version alongside Eco, which was the dual release, and then also the original release on the PS2. According to VG charts, which Tricky likes to use for all the sales data, no version of Shadow of the Colossus has sold over 2 million. I don't think any one of them has sold over 1.5 million. Combined, they've sold close to maybe a little over 4 million. So 3 versions across 3 consoles of one of the best, most highly regarded video games of all time can't crack 5 million. Barely cracks 4 million, if even that. And Tricky expects The Last Guardian to crack 5 million or 10 million. I mean, am I taking crazy pills here, Yield? Am I joining Mugatu and eating crazy pills? Like, whose side do you fall on?
Oh, I fall on your side. It's critics loved it.
Oh, that's right. You said you voted in the poll earlier, and Tricky's got me so riled up about this that I just completely forgot that fact.
It's one of those games that critics love it, but it's kind of, I call it kind of like an underground hit, where not everybody loves it, but those who do extremely love it and try to get everybody to play it.
The people who like Team Eco games are very vocal, but again, they're also very niche games. They're not going to sell, like, your Maddens or your Uncharted's or your Super Smash Brothers or your Mario Party or Mario Kart. They're just not going to have that mass appeal. So you do have very vocal fans, but again, they're a very vocal minority of the video game audience. Now, the sales of The Last Guardian were very close to what the sales of what it would seem to be most of the releases of Shadow of the Colossus, so you would figure that most of the overlap is actually, people who also bought Shadow of the Colossus. But again, I just think it's ludicrous for Tricky to just stick to what he said and say that this game should have been forecast to sell 5 to 10 million, and anything below that is a disappointment.
I know. If they sold what they sold on their other games, so let's say 1.5 to 2 million, I would say they hit their mark.
The fact that the game, at one point, it was so delayed so long that we didn't even know if it was coming out. There were news reports every 4 months that said, yes, they're still making Last Guardian. Fumito Ueda, who was the head of, at Team Ico for the longest time, he eventually left the studio, but was still working on The Last Guardian. So this game was, seemed to be in peril for the longest time, and it finally, the fact that they actually got the game out as a success, and the fact that it reviewed really well, was a success. Not to mention the fact that it cracked 1 million in sales. That's all super impressive because, the longer a game takes to put out, the flames, that, for people, the desire to buy it, kind of fizzles out as, the years go on and more games come out, and oh wait, The Last Guardian's still not out. So, I'm sure that Tricky and I will talk about this again on another show, but I still think he's nuts. If you side with Tricky, you are entitled to your opinion, but I think it's sheer lunacy to suggest that this game should have sold even 5 million, let alone 10. To set expectations that high. And I also, to switch to a lighter note, Yield, I know you are a big Star Wars fan.
Yes.
You need to make it to Galaxy's Edge, because it is amazing.
Is it?
Yeah, I mean, the new ride, Rise of the Resistance, is it's a ride, but it's also kind of a story. They're Harry Potter World, because we went there too, and also Galaxy's Edge. They're not just amusement park rides. You could you figure a roller coaster, you name it something like Dracula or the Beast or whatever. It's there's no story behind it. But as far as when you're creating this world, this universe within a theme park like Galaxy's Edge or Harry Potter World, there's so much story to pull from and so much character and plot that they actually can put story and character into the rides. So that's one thing I noticed. Everything in these parks, it's really super well done. We went to August Cantina, fantastic atmosphere, and very lively, great drinks. We dropped $100 on 6 drinks there with tips. So we expected to spend a lot of money when we went to Disney. But the fact that there's so much story behind the rides, it just makes it, the pomp and circumstance, also the quality of the ride itself and how fun it is, it's you as a Star Wars fan, you need to get to Galaxy's Edge and you need to go and ride the rides. Disney's also building a Tron ride, which is supposed to be open next year.
Old school Tron?
I'm not exactly sure. They had the light cycles outside of Space Mountain, but I don't know if it's more the new or the old. I'm assuming it's the old one. It's hard to beat the original, but yes, you'll make it to Galaxy's Edge if you can.
So, how was Flying the Falcon?
Oh, so you've heard of Smuggler's Run?
I saw your picture of you sitting in the cockpit. So
that it was an amazing experience because you've got 2 people who are engineers, you've got 2 people who are gunners, and you've got 2 pilots. And I was on the pilot side where I was one pilot goes side to side, the other one goes up and down. I was on the pilot side that had the lever to go into hyperspace, and I was it said over the thing it was pilot. Ready for hyperspace or something like that, and the lever turned green, the light it lit up, and I was oh shit, and I was I just grabbed the lever and with the most pride I could, I just yanked it back, and just the screen went. It was amazing. It was Smuggler's Run is a lot of fun. Rise of the Resistance, I would say, is still the better of the rides, but Smuggler's Run is insanely fun. And while you're waiting in line, you get to wrap around the Falcon. So. Yeah, because they have a big, replica Falcon in the port there, in the spaceport. So I guess that would be, it's not specifically Mos Eisley, but you definitely get kind of a Tatooine feel to Galaxy's Edge. Especially in, obviously the cantina, and then as well as the marketplace, too. So it is everything a Star Wars fan could want.
Oh, good. Oh, and since we're on Star Wars, have you seen The Mandalorian?
We finished it probably 3 or 4 weeks ago, and
Okay.
I was
Thoughts?
not I heard nothing but good things about it, and like I enjoyed it. My biggest gripe starting out was like, okay, this random Mandalorian. Why do I care? Like, what makes this exciting? But as you know, like you get to learn, like you get to know more about the character. You actually like, oh, I want to give it spoilers, but he becomes more than just the Mandalorian. Like there's more character to him. You learn more about it. So as the story unfolded, I got more into it. So Disney did a very nice job of developing that character, and it's not like just some random badass Mandalorian that you never can attach to.
I posted, so I watched the first couple, and I'm like, okay, I like it, but I'm not hooked like everybody else is. We got to episodes 3 and 4, and that got me. And then from there on, I'm just like, wow, this is amazing. So I posted on Facebook the other day after I was done watching all 8 chapters, and I'm like, in 8 30 to 45 minute episodes, John, and I cannot say his last name, but the creator of The Mandalorian,
Favreau.
thank you, has made you interested in the characters, developed the characters, and I can't remember what my third one was. Oh, made you care about the characters more than J.J. Abrams ever did in episodes 7 through 9.
Well, Jon Favreau obviously like heavily tied into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. You know, he was in the Iron Man movies. He's appeared here and there. He was in Avengers Endgame. So he's appeared throughout. Very talented writer, very talented, I guess we would call him producer, director. But he's been involved with a lot of Disney stuff, and the guy just does really good shit. So, I mean, like, he's not only a fan, but he also just, like, is overall a very good, like, when it comes to making movies, the guy can get it done.
Yeah, he can get it done.
And, you know, Pedro Pascal and, as well as Carl Weathers, and is it Carla Gargano, or I'll have to look up her name, the lady who played, the actress who played Cara Dune. All of them were really good. And of course, you know, you got the pull of Baby Yoda and IG-88 being a fucking badass all the time. So, yeah, like I think the one episode that really, really hooked me was the Prison Break one. I think that was the one that got me. I can't remember if that came before when they went to Mos Eisley, because either one of those two, when they went to Mos Eisley or when they went into the jailbreak episode, like one of those two is what really pulled me in.
I think Prison Break was before, but yeah, when they went back to Mos Eisley and Tatooine, I was like, oh, goody. My wife's like, what? I'm like, oh, I'll explain it to you later.
Okay, Gina Carano. I'm played Cardoon, so much love to Gina Carano for bringing that character to life, and also many apologies for me being unable to remember her name. So, yeah, no, the casting was really good. Of course, if you don't know Pedro Pascal, he was the guy who played the Red Viper of Dorne in Game of Thrones.
Ah.
You didn't watch Game of Thrones, did you?
I didn't watch Game of Thrones, so I didn't know, but...
Yes, he was in Game of Thrones, and one of the very much beloved characters on the show that unfortunately met a very untimely end. He would, I think a lot of people wanted him to hang around longer than they did. But, yeah. Yield, we've talked about we've talked about Star Wars. We've talked a little bit about me and Tricky being the new Donnie Tricky couple.
Yes.
We did talk about the Rumble before the show, but let's, if we go into the Rumble, we're going to sit here and talk for another half an hour if we actually get to the PlayStation news.
We will.
Let's actually talk about what we've... Nope. I've been on 418 episodes, or at least I've been on over 300 episodes, and I've forgotten the order. Yeah, it's, I'm all mixed up.
Okay.
Our updated trophy counts. Yield, did you update these? I'm assuming you did since you made the agenda.
I did update these.
So Tricky Mick is sitting at level 54 with a total trophy count of 12,777 and a platinum count of wrong. Wrong about everything, Tricky. You are wrong about everything. I am level 31, total trophy count of 6,924 and a platinum count of 102 in 101 games. Yield is level 28, 5,953 with 900, good lord, that's CJ numbers, with 93 platinums. Sid is level 40 with 9,460 total trophies and 170 platinums. And Resident Daryl, level 45, total trophy count of 10,191 total trophies. I think I was very redundant there. With 187 platinums. And Daryl, I just want to give a shout out to you and say I'm very glad you liked my intro to episode 415. Yield, did you hear that?
No, I did not. I'm going to go back and listen because
It was a little pseudo advertisement. It was obviously a faux advertisement for a company that doesn't exist, but listen to it and see if you can tell why Daryl likes it so much.
All right.
So now that we have gotten updated trophy counts out of the way, I can finally move to what I was trying to roadrunner to a little bit earlier, going at a breakneck pace here. What are we playing? Yield. I'm a little bit boring. I've been doing the same damn thing I've been doing.
Crash Team Racing.
What's up with you? Let's get the more exciting tales out of the way.
All right, so shocking. I've been playing some World of Warship Legends.
We're both going to be playing the same things we've been playing for the last 2 or 3 months.
Well, no, I fired up some Jedi Fallen Order. Got back into that Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, which I am enjoying.
I would assume, I know a lot of times with the longer or the solo games, you tend to take breaks. With Red Dead Redemption 2, you've taken a lot of breaks.
I have.
In the Star Wars universe, I feel like Fallen Order is a game you would just eat up.
Well, I started to play it, and then I got frustrated because I said because of the combat, either because I'm not playing it right or because there's just difficulty jumps that are throwing curveballs. So I kind of get mad at myself and a little frustrated with the game, and then so I go wander off on something else. Also, with the holiday season, I've been, there's this event, or there's that event, and I've been focusing on those and haven't gotten back to my other stuff.
I was going to say, you really threw me for a loop when I was still, in Florida, in Orlando, and you were like, hey, there's a new Rocket League event coming out, and of course, there's a new Grand Prix and Crash Team Racing, the Rustland Grand Prix, and then you were like, oh, hey, this Lucky Lanterns event for the Chinese New Year, the Lunar New Year. And I'm like, oh, great. Yet another event that I love Rocket League, but at the same time, it's like, God, another holiday event.
Another holiday event. That's how I was. So
I feel like I've been barreling through holiday events for 4 months now.
So I've been playing World of Warship Legends, Jedi Fallen Order. I picked up Dragon Ball Z Kakarot, and I'm hoping to get to play it tonight or tomorrow.
I'm really glad you were on here to pronounce the name of that game because Tricky would have shit the bed right there.
Tricky would have butchered it. So I've been I need to plug in my external hard drive because my system's full, and I've been having to delete some stuff, which isn't bad because I've deleted stuff that either, here's this beta that I don't know why it's still on here, delete it.
Spring cleaning in January. It's never too early.
Here's this game that I've platinumed, and I'm not going back to. I can delete it. But there's some games I've put on my system that I don't plan on getting to right away, and they're taking up a lot of space, so I need to plug my hard drive in and move some to there. So I got Dragon Ball Z Kakarot on the system, I got it updated, now I just gotta sit down and play it. I've also played some Rocket League on Sunday, to start collecting some of the red envelopes for the Lucky Lanterns.
We've talked about this before. Some
have.
of the past holiday events, namely the Halloween and then the Christmas event this year, kind of disappointing with the rewards. Some good ones as always, but overall, not I wasn't, too enticed by any more than half of the items. This one though, I'm like, oh, I see 7 things I want right away. I gotta get them envelopes.
Yeah.
The first 3 things that I bought were dragon related. I have a dragon decal as well as a dragon car topper and a dragon flag.
Yeah.
I'm dragoned out.
That's what I'm going for, or the dragons, and probably the firecracker antenna topper. So, man, I thought there was one more I've been playing. Oh, and I played some Rock Band 4 to help out the band.
After all of Tricky's bitching, and I love Homer's comment on Facebook where he said that he wanted to sympathize with Tricky about the spiders thing, but that Tricky called him out or called him a name on the last show, so he's like, well, so basically screw you. I'll find the exact quote on Facebook, but yeah. Sorry, Yield.
No, that's awesome. I missed that. But that's it. That's all I've been playing.
Okay, so, Homer said, I would sympathize with Tricky on his fear of spiders as I suffer slightly from automatonophobia. God, Homer, you making me say these long-ass words. And would break out in cold sweats and freeze up whenever I came across a dwarven automaton in Skyrim. But he called me a POS in this episode, so... Ellipses. That was episode 415, so... Daryl's new favorite intro to the show.
Oh, good stuff.
Homer isn't going to take Tricky's shit lying down, which none of us should.
No.
So, Yield, that's all you've been playing, sir?
That's all I've been playing.
Alright. Well, I, as you may have guessed, have played quite a bit of Rocket League, but it was nice because even though I missed the first few days of the new Grand Prix in Crash Team Racing, I took 2 weeks off from work, which, inside of that was our trip to Disney. So I had, by the time we came back, I had a full week to sit down and just grind it out. So I've made it entirely through that Grand Prix and kind of caught up for lost time there. And, caught up in Rocket League as well, bought all the stuff that I wanted from the Lucky Lanterns event, and, here we are. I guess I'm just gonna go back to, thumping that Pokemon, if you know what I mean.
There you go.
That's not meant to be sexual at all, I just kind of tried to find a very funny way to, a verb to use to mean playing Pokemon, and somehow I came up with thumping, which sounds like I'm jerking off a Pokemon.
Ugh.
Not a pretty sight. There are many websites where you can get that kind of stuff, but... Ugh, we're not looking at that. We're not tricky.
No.
Him and his Japanese graphic novels.
Which, according to CJ, he can translate.
CJ can?
No, Tricky can't. There was a thing going on in the Beatdown page, and something was brought up about Japanese visual novels, and CJ's like, well, Tricky could translate for you.
Tricky could do many things with those novels, and quite frankly...
Translating
that we don't want to know about, which should be sequestered to a very dark room when he's home alone. So, Yield, now that we've gone over what we've been playing, let's get into a little bit of news. Now, it seems like a slower week for news, slower than we're usually used to during the winter times.
It was. It was a slower week. Believe me, I scoured the webs.
A lot of this is kind of speculation, although this first story kind of got some very concrete information, stuff that we can assume, although maybe a little bit more information than we would have previously thought. So, I mean, we can all agree that Horizon Zero Dawn 2 is going to happen. They kind of left us on a cliffhanger there at the end of the first game, and let's be honest, the goal of making a new IP is to make something successful so that you can make sequels, because let's be honest, the sales are in the sequels. And Sony is not going to say, hey, Guerrilla, let's take all this money and all these resources and make this great game in Horizon Zero Dawn, and then just forget it after one game and let you make a new IP after that. So, we can assume that, yes, Horizon Zero Dawn 2 is a thing, and recently, as originally found on Reddit and picked up as a story by Games Radar, is the fact that Guerrilla Games is hiring for a role that many people would lead to believe, or it would lead many people to believe that they are looking possibly into the viability of multiplayer in a sequel to Horizon Zero Dawn. Now, I'm going to take some excerpts from the article here, and again, this is from Games Radar. They in a job posting, Guerrilla Games listed for a game server engineer, specifically mentioning working on systems like matchmaking, tournaments, clans, and leaderboards. And that, of course, all of that would lend you to believe that it's, again, multiplayer related. This is again a quote from the article. The posting confirms Guerrilla is working on an epic open-world game, stating that the desired applicant would help develop ranged and melee weapons, combat and traversal mechanics, player skills, damage and hit responses, camera inventory, and economy systems, and would preferably have experience in multiplayer. Now, of course, multiplayer, they also, Guerrilla Games did Killzone, which had a very big multiplayer aspect to it, but I don't think they're taking Killzone open world at any time, and many of these elements point to Horizon Zero Dawn. Ranged and melee weapons, an open world game. They mentioned a camera. They also mentioned economy and inventory systems, like basically all of that, with especially with combat and traversal being so integral to Horizon Zero Dawn. Basically, they're describing Horizon Zero Dawn 2. Here, can we both agree on that?
Yeah.
So, I mean, like, how do you feel about this, Shield? Like, how do you feel about multiplayer in Horizon Zero Dawn? Because, quite frankly, the first one didn't need it. I don't think it needs multiplayer, but again, there are some games that do really well with multiplayer, and there are other games that don't do so well. I mean, Dead Zone is one of those examples where they tried to shoehorn it in there and it didn't work out so well, whereas Uncharted, everyone was kind of hesitant about it, but then as it turns out, Naughty Dog did it really well.
Yeah,
in
see,
Uncharted.
I'm gonna take my lesson from Uncharted, because I was one of the masses that was like, you don't need it, there's no reason for it, you're gonna kill it, and it actually turned out to be really fun. So I don't think Horizon needs it. The game was fine on its own. I think the sequel will be fine on its own. But if there is going to be one, I'll be cautiously optimistic. We'll let Guerrilla do their thing, and we'll see how they work it in. I just hope that they stay single player focused and we have a multiplayer component. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the sad reality is that, there's still a desire for single player games, but like if your game is going to have a longer tail, so to speak, multiplayer kind of has to be an element in it. I mean, you look at the games that I've been playing quite a bit. Crash Team Racing I've been playing since June when it came out. Rocket League I'm still playing 4 years later. Why I came to the train late, so about 3 years later for me. You're still playing World of Warships. So a lot of these games have a multiplayer element, whereas, with a single player game, and yeah, you can play it on different difficulties, but after going through such a large game like Horizon Zero Dawn, it's kind of like, I kind of wanted to step away from this. And, the Frozen Wild came out, and that was a lot of fun. It was released in December. It was released far enough away from the original release where it's like, okay, yes, I'm ready for more of this. But it's not, like, I don't want to play Horizon Zero Dawn 2 again, or Horizon Zero Dawn again after playing it once. Or, like, at least not in quick succession.
Yeah.
So I think it is kind of a sign of the industry where a lot of, like, the games with the longest tails, they have multiplayer elements to them.
You're right. I would like to see, this is kind of a side thing, I would like to see the return of couch co-op.
I mean, if you could play Horizon Zero Dawn, obviously, they create a lot of great characters within Horizon. I mean, obviously, Aloy is that's the biggest character, and that's the one that, everyone will remember and attach to, but, clearly they showed that, a lot of the NPCs and just the other characters in general, you liked them, you wanted to see more of them, you wanted to see them develop a little bit more. So, I mean, Guerrilla Games can do that, so I don't think it'd be out of the realm of possibility to have kind of a co-op element to it, and I think that could definitely be a lot of fun. And I used the example of Dead Space earlier. I mean, clearly, they shoehorned co-op into Dead Space 3, which, I mean, you're supposed to feel isolated in Dead Space, which is why that didn't work. This one is more of a vibrant universe. You're not supposed to feel necessarily isolated. You want to meet new people, you want to foster relationships, and Aloy makes friends along the way. So this game, could be suited to co-op.
Very much so. Either story co-op or even multiplayer co-op.
And I know we're all licking our chops at another chance to step into the shoes of Aloy and enter the world of Horizon Zero Dawn, but this next news story we have is, kind of right up your alley, and I know you picked this for a specific reason, or for a special reason, because it caters directly to your interest. You're hoping it's gonna make your E3 prediction come true finally, your annual prediction come true.
Yes.
Ubisoft has rehired Maxime Belland, who, if you don't know, was the creative director on at least 2 Splinter Cells, those being Splinter Cell Conviction and Splinter Cell Blacklist. Now, the odd thing is that he left in 2019, is now coming back less than a year later, which, I mean, it's odd, but, hey, welcome back. In his new role, he will serve as the new vice president for Ubisoft's influential editorial team, helping guide various games across the company. The goal here is for the company to have a more varied profile. This story, I know you found it on IGN, but it seems the original story comes from Video Games Chronicle, and now while this all seems peachy and keen for Splinter Cell, it's also important to note that he was creative director for numerous games within Ubisoft, including Toronto made portions of Far Cry 4, Far Cry 5, and Far Cry Primal, as well as the game design. As well, he did game design on, the official title is Game Design Director for the original Assassin's Creed, as well as Creative Director and Lead Designer for Rainbow Six Vegas. So he's had his hands in many pots around Ubisoft. I mean, which is great why they brought him back, because he's obviously a very talented individual that can cover many different games and many different genres. So I don't know if this signals that there's another Splinter Cell game coming, but it definitely can't hurt to have this guy around. And of course, if they can kind of mix up their portfolio and he can help lead them along that way, and to ensure better quality, then more power to him. I mean, I think it's a good move overall.
Well, so do I. I had read in that article that it was the complaint with Ubisoft lately was their games had become all the same. It didn't matter what type of game it was. We were doing the same thing, collectathon and yada yada. They kind of say that's why Ghost Recon Breakpoint wasn't as successful as Wildlands, because it was just kind of fell into the mold of the same old game, and that's kind of why they brought him back, was to diversify the games to make them all feel different. But
I'll take a quote from the article here. Again, this is from Video Games Chronicle. The restriction of Ubisoft's editorial team follows the disappointing sales performance of 2019 titles The Division 2 and Ghost Recon Breakpoint, which resulted in the delay of several games to ensure quality, including Watch Dogs Legion. Ensuring quality, what you should have done from the start, Ubisoft, but shooting games out there, for sales as fast as you can to avoid, any kind of financial forecast snafus and having to move stuff on the balance sheet. That's clearly better.
Clearly.
So, nice to see they learned their lesson, though.
Yes. So, I mean, it's always good. It's good to have him back. I mean, there have been hints at a new Splinter Cell game. Now that you've got the creative director back, there could be in the works, especially next gen.
Now, what do you think the chances of Splinter Cell coming back actually are? I mean, I'm sure there's plenty of people like you who would want to play it and buy it. So, I mean, you're not the only one screaming from a mountaintop that you want Splinter Cell. But because he's worked across so many franchises, I think that the article mentioned it was 4, across his 20-year tenure at Ubisoft, do you think it's actually there's a legitimate chance that Splinter Cell could come back? I mean, they talked about varying up they want more variety in their portfolio. Maybe bringing back a classic game like that and kind of stepping away from some of the games they've been throttling as of late, including Ghost Recon and the Assassin's Creed. Maybe that's kind of what they need.
I agree with that, because it's, people have spoken highly of the Splinter Cell games, and there's a following there for it. It's like those of us that want Siphon Filter back. So I never say never. I think that this would be a good thing. Maybe you're not going to get it right away because he's got to right the ship, but I think you'll get one.
Yield, apparently I made a grievous error, because every year for E3 you predict that Siphon Filter is going to be the game that comes back next, right? Specifically because it's a PlayStation. It's classically a PlayStation game.
Yes.
Or thought of as a PlayStation game.
Correct.
Why didn't you correct me when I made that grievous error?
I'm just going to let you go with it.
Don't do that.
Don't
I feel
do
like
that?
a fool.
All right. I'll fix you next time.
Also, I think I just used the word grievous twice in the last 2 minutes. One thing you don't have to worry about, Yield, in the cantina or anywhere in Galaxy's Edge is the General Grievous. He's not there because, our boy Obi-Wan took him out.
Yeah. I don't need him and his 4 lightsabers showing up.
When we were at Disney, they had souvenir Jango Fett head mugs. And when we were in line to get food, I saw that. And I'm like, oh, so that's where his head landed after Mace Windu lopped it off. Oh, amazing. From our previous story, I kind of want to just add where the job listing came from. I know we attributed the articles to Games Radar and, based on, what somebody on Reddit found. But the Reddit user found it on Guerrilla Games' actual website. So the job listing came from Guerrilla Games' website. So we're not just pulling shit from Reddit. The the front page of the internet, as I'm doing air quotes, or otherwise known as where I go to get all my Pokemon Go information.
There you go.
All right, well, Yield, that's going to be the end of our news topics, although you do have one special news topic. Tricky likes to call it our topic of the week, but let's be honest, we could just bundle it in with all other news stories. Although this one's a bit more rumor.
It is. It's a lot more rumor, and I tried to look to find something more concrete than just Twitter, but I couldn't. So this is probably a rumor with a grain of salt. So,
okay, well, first of all, the Twitter user's name, their handle is NextGenPlayer.
It is. And I was
honestly, we could talk about this, but I'm going to call bullshit on some of these right away.
Okay. And I probably agree with you, but I put it in here for one game only. So have you decided, are you concrete that you are getting a PlayStation 5?
I mean, at some point, yes. I'm not going to be that asshole like Tricky who fights the crowds or buys, spends an absorbent amount of money to get one day one.
So we can agree that there's going to be Horizon 2, probably a Spider-Man 2, another God of War. You're going to get MLB The Show. These are some of the games that are listed on this rumored to be at the PlayStation 5 reveal event. But might I entice you, sir? Would you be interested in a new Spyro game?
Okay, before we get into this, I want to point out that this guy's description of himself is, quote, 12-year world-traveling game media vet. It doesn't get any juicier than this, with a bundle of grapes and the splash, like water splashes icon, emoji, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, so take with that from you will. Doesn't really seem like the most professional guy. But, as far as a new Spyro game, it seems like they're going to try to Activision, of course, owns the license for owns the properties Spyro and Crash Bandicoot. I know we got Crash Bandicoot last year. We also got Spyro last year, didn't we?
Yes.
Okay, so everyone has kind of been talking. There's rumors of a new Crash Bandicoot game coming out.
I've heard that too.
Because Crash, the Crash Insane Trilogy came out in 2017, and then we skip a few years, and then CTR and Spyro come out. Actually, hold on. Let me check on the release date of Spyro Reignited, because I don't know. I just want to make sure that it actually came out last year. It's not that I don't trust you, Yield. Actually, no, the release date was 2018. November 2018. So what a lot of people think that Activision's going to do is that they're going to kind of alternate years or alternate releases with these two. So that would, yes, Crash Team Racing came out, but a lot of people are thinking that with so many rumors about a Crash game, that Crash is next to come out, and then after that, they'll do another Spyro.
Okay. If that doesn't entice you.
So I think the game's rumored to be at Sony's PS5 reveal event. It would make sense to have Spyro there because Spyro has been a big part of PlayStation's history. It was a huge release for the original PlayStation. I just don't think it's going to come out yet. I think Activision's sitting on that one.
What about the sequel to The Order 1886?
I liked The Order 1886.
I enjoyed it.
I had issues with it. The main one being it was basically pitted as you were fighting monsters in the Victorian era, but most of it was just shooting at humans. There were some monster fights, yes, but there were not enough monsters in that game for me, and that was my biggest issue with it. It was shorter. The game looked great, but a lot of people took umbrage with the fact that the story wasn't very long. But
6 hours.
Yeah, my biggest complaint was that you didn't fight as many monsters as I thought you would. Again, Radiant Dawn Studios did that. Known for the God of War PSP games. They've done a lot of stuff. A quality game development studio. So, the pieces were there for the game to be good, and if they did a sequel, I have no doubt that it would be good.
I enjoyed the game, and I'm still waiting for the sequel. Even though it was short, I still enjoyed it enough that it'd be yeah, I'd play another one.
I don't know that Sony is willing to pull the trigger on it, but quite frankly, as far as timeline goes, there's been enough time to pass since where I think that it would make sense for them to be hey, Order 1886. Although, quite frankly, if they haven't done a sequel to Heavenly Sword, I feel like a sequel to Heavenly Sword would come before the Order 1886 sequel, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, that was a very loved game. So here we go. So this was the main reason I put it on here. It would definitely lure me in to buy a 5 sooner rather than later. What about Sly Cooper 5?
Sly Cooper 4 was a long time ago. Not a long time ago, but it was on the PS3. People love the Sly games. It's definitely something they could bring back, and it would, I think it's still over $1 million, somewhere between 1 and 2 million. And it would do well for Sony.
It would do well.
Sly is a beloved character, and I would be totally down for that. So, of course, Sucker Punch, probably not at the helm of this. If you remember, Sly 4 Thieves in Time was made by Sanzaru Games, not by Sucker Punch. Sucker Punch, of course, is working on Ghost of Tsushima. Going to get that out later this year. So, I mean, that would mean that Sanzaru is once again handling Sly if this were to be at a reveal. Obviously, if these games are shown at a PS5 reveal, it doesn't mean they're all coming at launch or, even within a year. This is just kind of a roadmap for what we're going to see, games they're working on, and you would figure that if, the PS5's coming out later this year, they're working on a bunch of games for it. Sly 5 makes sense, and I don't know what Sanzaru's been doing since Sly 4, so it's definitely a possibility, and I think it's a franchise they could easily put out there and get some sales for it. A game I don't see on here is Ratchet, though, and I figure that, given that the last Ratchet game, even though it came out for the 4, it still feels like years and years ago. I don't know. I feel like that is a more marketable game than Sly, and we would see that first. But I mean, it's Sly, like, I could definitely see Sly too, although it's still nice to see that, not really nice to see, but it's, terrible for Jack and Daxter fans. That game has still been left on the PS2 era.
I was surprised that there wasn't a Ratchet and Clank because we still haven't finished Ratchet's story. But Sly, when I finished Thieves in Time, I was like, we got to finish this. We can't stop here.
Yeah, a lot of people had issues with that ending. I don't really remember it being particularly egregious, but I mean, like, Sly 4 may be my favorite Sly game. I mean, Sly 2, I really like the game a lot. I just thought overall, as a game, Sly 4 was better.
Well, if it ended, I would be okay with it, but I was still kind of like, we can't end it that way. But if we did, it's not like we did it bad. Does that make sense?
For that reason, I think a lot of people would be hyped for Sly 5, or at least Sly fans would definitely come running for it, and they would buy it. God of War 2 is on this list. It's at the top of the list. That was that's 2018, because I played it early last year. So that was 2018, so if we're going, it would probably come out 2021. They would take 3 years. I mean, that's a given. It's God of War 2, based on the Norse mythology line, that's coming out at some point. I could see that happen, yes.
Absolutely.
Spider-Man 2, from Insomniac, that's probably why you don't see a Ratchet game on there. So I could definitely see Spider-Man 2 coming out. Sorry, Yield, I hijacked your thing.
No, that's fine. I just wanted to ask you about those 3 games. I saw those 3 games, and I'm like, you know what? I can work this with something. So no, go right ahead.
Demon Souls Remastered. I think it's Dark Souls that is on the Switch. So Dark Souls Remastered is already out. I think Demon Souls was the first game, right?
I believe
Demon Souls was the first game in the line. Notoriously difficult. But I can definitely see that because they people love to remaster things, and the Dark Souls has already been remastered. Horizon Zero Dawn 2. I mean, we could easily see that. On one episode recently, we were talking about how it could potentially be a launch title for the system. Here's one I'm kind of gonna poo-poo: PlayStation All Stars Battle Royale 2. I enjoyed the game, nowhere near as fun as Super Smash Bros. And I know they try to do things differently than Super Smash Bros., but let's be honest, it's a party mascot brawler, so it's essentially like, it is trying to be like Super Smash Bros., but not be an identical clone of it. I don't think that this game was well enough received for them to bring it back. I would be surprised if they announced this game.
Yeah, if they did bring it back, I don't think it would be at a launch event.
Next up is a new Killzone. Again, it would be from Guerrilla Games unless Sony has handed that off to another development studio, which could happen, but I mean, if Guerrilla Games, if there's a suggestion that Guerrilla Games is developing both that and Horizon Zero Dawn 2, there's no way. They would have to pass it off to another studio, so I'm going to poo-poo the new Killzone as well.
I'm okay with that.
Gran Turismo 7, like, there's a Gran Turismo for every console, right? It's sometimes multiple, because obviously we're on 7. That'll happen at some point.
Oh yeah, I totally believe that.
And when was the last Gran Turismo released? It's been a while. Was it Gran Turismo Sport?
Yeah.
You'll look that up for me if you can. Can you?
Yep, looking it up.
Also on here is a game called Legends with a Z instead of an S on the end. Heal, do you have any idea what that game is?
No, I have no idea what that is.
Hopefully it's Legends of the Hidden Temple, just slightly more hip, because, the Z's on the end. And lastly, MLB The Show 21, which obviously was until recently an exclusive to the PlayStation. It came out every year for the PlayStation, so yes, that will likely be there. A showcase title for the early days of the PlayStation 5. Of course, it's going to be coming also to the Xbox and I believe the Switch as well. So yeah, it has gone multi-platform, but I guarantee that Sony's still going to highlight it. Yield, did you find anything on the great case of which Gran Turismo was last?
Sport, October 17th of 2017.
Yeah, I'd say they're due.
They're due.
So, I mean, like, of these, I would say that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 are legitimate. The others, I mean, one of the other ones being the Order 1886, which I think is a little bit more out there. I can see it happening, but I don't think Sony's going to invest in that just yet, if ever again. But again, I don't know what Reddit Dawn's been doing since then, so who knows? Yield, what about you? How many of these do you think are legit?
Oh, doggone it. I closed it. I need to open it back up.
While you're counting, I'll say that while, I did, I was like, hey, some of these seem legitimate, like, these are Sony's biggest titles and a lot of their exclusives, so it would not have been hard just to make this list up.
So, 6 of them, for sure, but those are all the guaranteed ones. So, I would like to see, of the ones that are kind of out there, I know that I would like to see the Order 1886, because I know that it's got kind of a following. I would like to see that in Sly. But I know, I mean, it's no guarantee. That's me being wishful thinking.
I want to put this out there that the guy who created this thread, Next Gen Player, wrote, he said, probably none of these rumors are real though, LOL, so take with a massive grain of salt. So this guy and his wet grapes, like, I'm going to say that he probably made this list up because, I mean, any dope who has owned a PlayStation can probably make this list up. But there is probably some legitimacy to the games he listed, only because, like, a lot of these are no-brainers. If they released, at least one Gran Turismo per console generation, you can probably guess that another one's coming.
Oh, yeah.
Although at this point, I think that Sony might be smart to, like they did with Gran Turismo Sport, to take away the numbers because, Gran Turismo's getting up there in age, and you don't want it to seem too old. That's why Vince McMahon no longer allows people to call WrestleMania the granddaddy of them all. It doesn't want to seem too old. All right, well, thank you very much at Next Gen Player for that, those rumors, that barrel of laughs, and probably the complete BS that you just threw on the internet. But, hey, you and I talked about it, so.
It worked.
But, like I said, there's some legitimacy to some of those games, because, they're going to be coming out. We know it. All right, well, that's going to bring us to the end of our show, and let's get to our housekeeping. We're going to clean this shit up. All right, if you're on Twitch and you want to watch and see what Proven Gamer is playing, you can go to twitch.tv/ProvenGamer. You can also contact the show via Twitter at Proven Gamer. You can also via email at trophyhorse@provengamer.com, as well as through our phone number. Yield, what's the phone number?
330-PROVEN9. 330-776-8369.
If you enjoy what you hear on Trophy Horse, check out the other podcast on the Proven Gamer Podcast Network, which include PG Spoilers as well as Game Stuff, the co-flagship podcast of the Proven Gamer Podcast Network, since the leader of this show is an insane asshole who thinks that The Last Guardian should sell 10 million copies. We've also got PlayStation 4 communities that you can interact with, including the Proven Gamer, the Tito's Brothel, because Shuhei won't let us say whores on the network, as well as the Platinum Guild Yields hive of scum and villainy.
Yes. A wretched hive.
And as you may have guessed, the Platinum Guild is just a place where you can share your latest platinums that you have attained on the PlayStation 4. Where can you find our various podcasts? You can find them on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, various podcast apps, Google Play, Pandora, TuneIn, and you can also find Trophy Whores on iHeartRadio and Spotify, as well as Pandora. Yield, I'm going to throw the sponsors, or at least some of them, to you. How about you tell them about our partnership with Amazon?
So, if you go to the Proven Gamer website, on the side, there's an ad for Amazon. If you click on it, it takes you straight to Amazon, and you can do your shopping as you normally would, because you know that everybody buys something from Amazon. And a little bit of your purchases get kicked back to us to help keep the lights on and help Tricky with his medicine for dementia. You know, because he thinks that 5 to 10 million for a video game.
For a very specific video game that would never attain those sales.
Yeah, a niche video game. Yeah, I don't know what he's thinking.
If you want to support Trophy Whores, you can support us via Patreon at patreon.com/provengamer. And you can become a Patreon producer just like CJ Anderson. Thank you, CJ, for your continued support of the show. Tricky set up a whole bunch of different levels of supports for the show, so depending on how much you donate to us per month, that'll determine the tier and the reward that you get for that. Again, if you can't help financially, though, we always say just spread Trophy Whores via word of mouth, because quite frankly, that's the best advertising that we can ask for. So even if you don't pledge money, you can definitely help support the show. We are also partnered with Humble Bundle. And if you don't know what HumbleBundle.com is, it is a charity initiative that every month bundles together digital media, be it books, video games. They bundle together a ton of stuff. But the most prominent sales and probably the most prescient to your interest are the video games. And it's a tiered bundle, so the more you pay, the more of the bundle you get. So the more games you'll get. Usually the bundles are valued at over $250, so even if you have to pay $20, it's definitely worth it, and again, it's for charity, so while you can name your price, you should always give as much as you possibly can.
Absolutely.
Go to humblebundle.com to sign up for their electronic newsletter, and if you want to go to the show description for this show for this episode on ProvenGamer.com, there will be a link in the show description directly to our partnership page with Humble Bundle. Well, Yield, I think that is going to bring us to the end of the show, sir. Do we want to do some shout-outs?
Let's do some shout-outs.
All right, Yield, how about you go first?
Okay, so I would like to give a shout-out to Alex for being here recording tonight. A shout-out to Tricky, who is playing hooky and trying to hijack the show via Facebook and sending us messages, but it's not going to work because we're not listening. A shout out to you, all the fans out there, for interacting with us through Facebook, the Twitters, our Facebook groups, all that. It's very much
appreciated. Sound like an old man, Yield. The Twitters.
The Twitters, I know. I don't know. My brain's locking up, so that's what I went with. So thank you for all of you for doing that. It's very much appreciative. That's it. Keeping it simple.
Yeah. And, I know what you mean by the Twitters, Yield, because I'm turned 35 this year, or last year, so I'm an old man too. So don't feel bad about that. Aging gracefully, you and I.
Yes.
I want to give a shout out to the listeners, the fuel to the fire of this Trophy Horse. Thank you all very much for your continued support of the show. You guys continue to push the show to greater heights, and without you all, none of this would be possible. I don't really want to sit down and shout at Tricky for an hour and a half, if we're the only ones listening. So thank you guys for continuing to drive the show forward. We are eternally grateful for your continued support. Give a shout out to Yield for showing up tonight, a night after the Rumble. We've had our Rumble hangovers.
Yes.
Shout out to Tricky, who could not be here today. A big shout out, as always, to our man across the pond, Sid. A big shout out to Daryl, who had his trophies read worry-free this episode because Dictator Tricky's not here trying to hijack everything.
No beeps.
Yep, Tricky, just because you play easy games and Japanese graphic novels for platinums doesn't mean you have to be embarrassed because Daryl's trophy list is better than yours.
A lot better.
And last but not least, I want to give a shout out to my awesome girlfriend, Ashley. I love you, honey. And like I said, we had a wonderful time in Disney. It was the first time I'd been back to Disney in the longest time. And I was excited to see Galaxy's Edge and Toy Story Land and go to Harry Potter World. And after chickening out when I was much, much younger, Alex, like 7 or 8, I finally rode Space Mountain. My first time back to Magic Kingdom since then, so life goal achieved, even though there's actually a little story to this, because we got towards the end of the ride, toward the end of the line to get on the ride, and all of a sudden, the car stopped going and the lights went up, and they said the ride was delayed, and I'm like, no, don't do this to me! No! This is our only day at Magic Kingdom! Luckily, within 5 minutes, some dude comes running down the ramp, the lights go back down, and everyone just starts clapping and going mad, because you know that if they shut down Space Mountain, it's gonna be Riot Shield.
Yeah, it's gonna be riots.
Little trivia, did you know it's actually the oldest operating coaster in the state of Florida? It opened in 1975.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. Also, if you go to Magic Kingdom and Disney World, go get on the Seven Dwarfs minecart ride. It's a little roller coaster, not too intense, but incredibly fun. Great presentation. Although the line for that ride got up to 3 hours at one point, so use your fast passes on it.
Good God.
Yep, so that is going to bring us to the end of episode 418. I want to remind you that, yes, Tricky is always wrong, and
always.
He's a pure lunatic. Yield and I are amazing. Daryl has the best trophies. CJ is the alpha dog, as far as platinum goes, and Sid is always the man across the pond. And until next week, happy trophy hunting.
Later.
Save your last words, then read on me this. Save your last words. Save your last words, then read on me this. Save your last words, then read on me this. Save your last words, then read on me this. Save your last words, then read on me this.
The theme song is Venus by the band Even off their album Zenith. Permission granted by the band and 12 Stone Records. You can find them on Facebook by going to www.facebook.com/evenphilippines.